Check. 1 2 1 2.
Live across the universe.
Check it out.
Ladies and gentlemen,
It's about that time, y'all.
you are now in the mix. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Give it up for
ATL, stand up. You're locked in with the livest, realest, rawest talk in the game. This is the Bro Code Podcast ATL, where the culture talks back, the vibes stay heavy, and the code always respected. Don't touch that dial. Keep it right here, because we breaking the code live from the A.
Hello, everyone. Live from K.L.P Studios and our entire cast and crew, this is Bro Code Podcast ATL. You are listening to the legit sports podcast in Atlanta. Let's get to it. The NBA's rookie extension deadline is like a high-stakes game of financial Tetris. Teams have just hours left to lock in their young stars before the pieces start falling into completely different patterns.
You know what's fascinating about this year's deadline? We've already seen some massive deals get done early. Paolo Banchero, Chet Holmgren, Jabari Smith Jr. But there are still 15 players hanging in the balance.
And here's what makes this particularly intense. Looking at the past 2 years, 14 out of 25 players who signed rookie extensions waited until the absolute last day. That's some serious deadline drama.
Let's dive into some of these cases because the financial implications are wild. Take Dyson Daniels in Atlanta. We're talking about a most improved player who just put up 229 steals, the most since Gary Payton in '96.
Right, and his agent is pushing hard for that Jalen Suggs comparison at 5 years, $150 million. But here's where it gets complicated. The Hawks are also dealing with Trae Young's massive $49 million player option looming next season.
So how do you think they thread that needle financially?
Well, the sweet spot seems to be around 5 years, $125 million. That keeps them under both the luxury tax and the aprons. But speaking of financial gymnastics, let's look at what's happening in Denver with Christian Braun and Peyton Watson.
Oh man, that's such an interesting situation because Braun has already proven himself as a key piece of their championship run. But the numbers get really tight really fast.
Exactly. Even after moving Michael Porter Jr. for Cameron Johnson to save some money, they're still walking this incredibly thin line with the second apron. And here's what most people don't realize. Even if they waive Jonas Valanciunas for that $10 million relief, they're still in a tough spot.
The ripple effects of these decisions are fascinating, like in Detroit, where they've got both Jaden Ivey coming off that broken fibula and Jalen Duren, who's putting up historic numbers for his age.
You know what blows my mind about Duren? He's one of only 5 players in NBA history with more than 100 double-doubles before turning 22. That's the kind of stat that makes GMs lose sleep at night trying to figure out the right number.
And they've already committed that massive extension to Cade Cunningham. 5 years, $269 million. That's got to factor into their thinking, right?
Absolutely. And this is where the new CBA really shows its teeth. Teams aren't just thinking about individual talent anymore. They're having to consider these complex layers of financial implications years down the line.
Speaking of complex situations, what about Mark Williams in Phoenix? That's got to be one of the most medically interesting cases we've seen in a while.
Oh man, talk about a roller coaster. Fails a physical with the Lakers, trade gets voided, then turns around and puts up 15 and 10 in 29 minutes a game. But he's missed 116 games with various injuries. That's the kind of thing that keeps medical staff up at night.
The Suns gave up 2 first-round picks to get him, though. That's got to factor into their thinking about an extension.
And that's where creative contract structuring comes in. Imagine a 3-year, $51 million deal with partial guarantees tied to games played. It's like building in an insurance policy for both sides.
The Pacers situation with Benedict Mathurin really shows how these decisions ripple across entire rosters.
Right? They've already got $160 million committed to just 7 players next season. That's before we even talk about Matherin, who's shown real promise, but might be too expensive to extend right now given their other commitments.
And then there's Shaden Sharp in Portland, just 22 years old, but already showing flashes of being something special.
7 30-point games before turning 22. That's the kind of potential that makes you want to lock a player up long term. But even there, you're looking at a $25.2 million cap hold just as a starting point.
You know what's really striking about all of this? How much the business of basketball has evolved. It's not just about talent anymore.
It's become this incredibly complex puzzle of salary caps, luxury tax thresholds, and roster construction. And what fascinates me is how these decisions we're watching play out right now will shape these franchises for the next half decade or more.
So what's your boldest prediction for how this all shakes out by Monday's deadline?
I'm thinking we see at least 3 deals that shock everyone, either way above or way below market expectations. Teams are getting more creative with these contracts, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see some truly unique structures emerge.
That's going to make for some intense final hours before that 6 p.m. Eastern deadline.
And that's what makes this so fascinating. We're watching real-time decisions that will impact the next generation of NBA stars. The pressure to get these calls right is enormous, and we'll know in just a few days who made the right moves and who might be regretting their choices for years to come.
Two nights before James Franklin's final game at Penn State, an unranked Clarkson University men's hockey team scored on the 4th-ranked Nittany Lions a minute after puck drop. Behind the net, students erupted into chants of "Fire Franklin" and resumed the chant after every goal in a 6-4 Clarkson win. On Saturday, during Penn State's stunning 22-21 loss to Northwestern, the "Fire Franklin" chants echoed through Beaver Stadium and never let up. After a 3rd straight loss, Franklin looked defeated. As if saying goodbye, he stood on the 10-yard line and hugged every remaining player on the field before heading through the South Tunnel for the last time as head coach. There, his wife and daughter waited. He sent them ahead, perhaps so they wouldn't hear the vitriol that awaited him, as he passed fans lined up on either side of the underpass to the locker room. How it all turned so bad so fast. One Penn State athletic department source said, "I don't know." The Nittany Lions began the season ranked no. 2 in the AP Top 25. They poured millions into building a loaded roster and a seasoned coaching staff that Franklin called his best yet. While the other Big Ten powers were set to debut new quarterbacks, Penn State boasted a 3-year starter in Drew Aller, who opened as one of the Heisman Trophy betting favorites. Coming off a CFP semifinal appearance, Penn State seemed poised to chase its first national title in 39 years. Yet with those expectations came unprecedented pressure on the Nittany Lions, who under Franklin had repeatedly wilted in big games. As one former Penn State staff member put it, they were either going to win it all, or they were going to implode. 6 games into Franklin's 12th season, the Nittany Lions imploded. They lost in double overtime at home to Oregon, which dropped Franklin to 4-21 at Penn State against AP Top 10 opponents, including 1-18 in Big Ten games. They fell at winless UCLA, a team that had already fired its coach and hadn't led once all season. Then, they lost to an unranked Northwestern, making Penn State the first team since the 1978 FBS-FCS split to lose consecutive games as 20-point or more favorites. "It's 100% on me," Franklin said afterward. "We got to get it fixed, and I will get it fixed." By then, Penn State was too broken. On Sunday, Penn State Athletic Director Pat Kraft fired Franklin. It was a difficult, emotional parting, as Kraft had a strong relationship with Franklin and respect for how he had built the program. Sources inside the program indicated culture wasn't the problem, as evidenced by the decision of 10 star players to turn down the NFL draft and return for another season. "This is not a 3-game thing," Kraft said Monday. "This is really diving into where we are as a program. What is the trajectory of this program?" That drove Kraft to make the call despite Franklin's $49 million buyout. the second largest in college football history behind Jimbo Fisher's $76 million Texas A&M payout. Franklin, who didn't immediately respond to texts or calls from ESPN, won 104 games and reached double-digit wins 6 times in 11 seasons at Penn State, including the previous 3. Yet, no matter what he or the program tried, the Nittany Lions couldn't win in the games that mattered most. And after Penn State failed to beat Oregon, the bottom finally fell out. The school's fan base and power brokers gave up on its coach ever getting the Nittany Lions over the top. "I'm here to win a national championship," Kraft said, "and I believe our fans deserve that." Interviews with program insiders detail how a season that began with such promise in Happy Valley spiraled out of control, and what comes next for Penn State. The Nittany Lions reeled off 7 wins to begin last season, setting up a November top 5 clash in State College against Ohio State. Penn State jumped to an early 10-0 lead, but the Nittany Lions failed to score another touchdown. Twice, the Ohio State defense stoned Penn State inside the 5-yard line on the way to a 20-13 victory. The Buckeyes went on to win the national championship. Penn State's brass had seen how Ohio State's massive financial investment the previous offseason paid off in big moments, from a victory in State College to a dominant run through the playoff. The Buckeyes sank $20 million into their roster. They kept key players from bolting early for the NFL and landed several star players in the transfer portal. They even hired away UCLA coach Chip Kelly to be offensive coordinator. This offseason, the Nittany Lions emulated that blueprint. They found the money to keep Aller and standout running backs Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen on campus. They also hired away Ohio State defensive coordinator Jim Knowles, who had transformed the Buckeyes' defense into the best in college football. After a 1-point loss to Ohio State in 2018, Franklin noted that Penn State had gone from a good football team to a great football team. But the Nittany Lions still weren't on an elite level, like Ohio State was. "Right now, we're comfortable being great," he said then. "I'm going to make sure that everybody in our program, including myself, is very uncomfortable. We're going to break through." This year, that breakthrough seemed possible. As one Penn State source said, Kraft and the administration ensured that Franklin had everything he needed to win a national championship and get rid of that stigma. "You want to keep those running backs? Let's do it. We need a wide receiver? Let's FING do it. Jim Knowles is out there? How much is it going to cost? What do you need? Let's go do it." Penn State sources noted that the program's funding began matching that of Ohio State, Alabama, and Georgia, underscoring that the Nittany Lions are in the middle of a $700 million renovation to Beaver Stadium, which is set to be completed by the 2027 season. "There was a lot of momentum trending our way," one university source said, "but the echo chamber of how good we were started to echo against itself. Like, we're not just going to make the playoff, we're going to win the national championship." It just got bigger and bigger, where the expectations were just massive. Instead of overwhelming the opposition, though, the Nittany Lions played tense. They struggled under the weight of those expectations. Even during the first 3 wins over Nevada, Florida International, and Villanova, the vaunted running game sputtered, and the defense wasn't suffocating the opposition as the players adjusted to Knowles' system. Even then, alarm bells were going off inside the Lasch football building. The culture had gotten really tight, one athletic department source said. "People around here were like, we're going to get FING crushed by Oregon." One NFL personnel executive who had scouted those first 3 games wondered the same. "They stunk," he said. "It was like, what's happening with them?" Still, coming off a bye, the Nittany Lions had a prime opportunity to prove they were over their big game flops of the past, with the Ducks traveling in for a September 27 primetime showdown in front of a whiteout Beaver Stadium crowd. "This is going to be a statement game for our season," Allen told ESPN the week before. Instead, it was more of the same. They didn't get crushed, but struggled for long stretches. The offense under second-year coordinator Andy Kotelnicki never established a running game. Aller couldn't find a rhythm. And while Oregon coach Dan Lanning aggressively went for it on 4th down 5 times in the first half alone, Franklin managed the game conservatively. Facing 4th and 9 from the Oregon 36-yard line, Franklin sent in the punt team. The ball landed in the end zone, resulting in a touchback. The Ducks capitalized, scoring their first touchdown, then another on their ensuing drive to take a 17-3 lead in the fourth quarter. That's when the first fire Franklin chants began to reverberate around Beaver Stadium. When you're more talented than the other team, that doesn't hurt you, said an NFL personnel executive who has scouted the Nittany Lions this season. But in these close games where the talent gap gets a little bit smaller, it comes down to a few of those decisions that you make in terms of what position you put your team in. You could see Lanning stacking decisions and setting up different things they wanted to do throughout the game. The strategy was clear. For all of James' strengths, recruiting and leadership, his major weakness, in-game decision-making, showed up in every close game. Aller finally came alive in the fourth quarter and led the Nittany Lions on back-to-back touchdown drives to send the game to overtime. But then on Penn State's first snap of the second overtime, he threw an interception, handing the Nittany Lions yet another loss in a top 10 matchup. As fans emptied out of Beaver Stadium, many could be heard chanting F. Drew Aller. In the 12-team playoff era, Penn State's season technically wasn't over with one loss. Under Franklin, the Nittany Lions had usually responded well after crushing big-game defeats. After the setback to Ohio State last year, Penn State responded by hammering Washington and Purdue by a combined score of 84-16. After losing to Michigan late in the 2023 season, the Nittany Lions finished off the regular season by dispatching Rutgers 27-6 and Michigan State 42-0. But with so much riding on this season, the Oregon defeat was an emotional blow that sent the Nittany Lions to the mat. They never got back up. It's so hard mentally when you expect something big to happen. A Power 4 assistant said of Penn State, when that gets devastated so early, some dudes just don't handle it very well. The Nittany Lions traveled to Pasadena, California, hoping to get their season back on track against winless UCLA. The Bruins had recently fired Coach Deshaun Foster and both coordinators after getting thumped by New Mexico 35-10. But one source close to Penn State described the Nittany Lions as emotionless after Oregon. The team needed inspiration and confidence, the source said, but it was all hesitation. The Bruins were 24-point underdogs. They had scored just 57 points in their previous 4 games combined. But UCLA scored on its first 5 possessions to take a 27-7 lead into halftime. Wide receivers weren't finishing routes. Guys weren't finishing blocks. The defensive line not being where they're supposed to be. Things that were always done at Penn State weren't happening, a program source said. The Nittany Lions tried to fight back in the second half, but curious fourth and 2 call from a UCLA 9-yard line ended the rally. Kotelnicki dialed up an end-around zone read, and the Bruins buried Aller behind the line of scrimmage. That play call proved emblematic of Penn State's offensive struggles under Kotelnicki, who had thrived with gimmicks at Kansas, but failed to fully embrace Penn State's hard-nosed tradition or get the best out of Aller's skill set. He tries to do a lot of stuff with movement and motions, but it just didn't play well, a coach who faced Penn State said. With the running backs they have and the skill guys they brought in at receiver, you have thought they would have been able to get more production out of that group. In turn, Drew regressed. Afterward in the Rose Bowl tunnels, UCLA's defensive lineman taunted Aller, saying first-round quarterback, what? Franklin, partially blaming the cross-country travel for the way his team played, was asked if he still believed this was the best combination of coaching and talent he'd had at Penn State. How am I supposed to answer that, he replied, shaking his head. Obviously, I felt that way, or I wouldn't have said it. But after 2 losses, it's hard for me to answer that question and say that that's the case. Aller was asked if the Nittany Lions still had a chance of making the playoff. What do you think? He fired back. Yes. One Penn State source called a lackluster performance mind-blowing. Another said the Lash facility felt like a morgue leading into Northwestern. Over the summer at Big Ten Media Days, Aller said it was time for Penn State to get over that hump in big games. Suddenly, the Nittany Lions couldn't win the smaller ones, either. The pressure had gotten to them. It wasn't fair to the kids, a source close to the program said. It's just not. because you're not at your best when you're worried about making a mistake and you've got to be perfect. Then you lose the love of what you do and you lose your confidence and you're just a shell of yourself. That applied to Aller, whose production dipped. Aller had strongly considered leaving for the NFL after last season. Multiple scouts said they believe Aller would have been a first-round pick last year, and noted several teams had him in the second tier, behind no. One picked Cam Ward, with Jackson Dart, who went 25th overall to the New York Giants. People were very excited about him, one NFL personnel executive said of Aller. But after throwing a costly interception in the CFP semifinal, setting up Notre Dame's game-winning field goal, Aller opted to come back. This season, fair or not, Aller came to symbolize Penn State's tentative, uncertain approach. At 6'5", 235 pounds, boasting a powerful arm, Aller often played, or had been instructed to play. Like a quarterback with far fewer natural gifts, said one source close to program. You could just tell he had a self-monologue of, don't screw it up, don't throw a pick, just not playing very confidently. A coach who faced Penn State said, they just feel like a team that doesn't know who they are. When Aller arrived at Penn State, he showed promise of becoming the player who had eluded the Nittany Lions. From Sean Clifford to Christian Hackenberg, Penn State had signed prototypical quarterback prospects before, but none under Franklin had developed into a passer capable of leading the Nittany Lions to a national championship or turning into a first-round pick. As a sophomore in 2023, Aller threw 25 touchdowns with just 2 interceptions. The following offseason, Franklin hired Kotelnicki to unlock Penn State's downfield passing attack. Last season, Aller ranked 16th nationally with a QBR of 77.5. He also averaged 8.44 yards per attempt. But this year, Aller's play declined. He ranks just 91st with 6.9 yards per passing attempt, only a notch above the 6.8 he averaged 2 years ago. Aller also has an off-target passing rate of 13.3% this season, 12th worst among Power 4 quarterbacks. His accuracy was off all year, a defensive coordinator who faced Penn State said. NFL sources added that they felt the Nittany Lions operated like they didn't fully trust him. And they have more information than we do, one NFL personnel executive said. When they needed him to put on his back, you just never saw that. But the other side of the argument is his career so eerily mirrored Hackenberg, you do wonder if there's a quarterback development issue. As if it couldn't get any worse for Aller, late in the fourth quarter against Northwestern. While trying to run for a first down, he suffered a season-ending left leg injury. Having played more than 4 games in each of the past 4 seasons, Aller has exhausted his eligibility. On Monday, tears welled in Kraft's eyes as he spoke of Aller. Anyone who ever doubts that young man's commitment to Penn State and Penn State football, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, Kraft said. He's one hell of a young man, and he puts up with a lot of crap. He wants to win in the worst way. To see it end that way, you never want that. Despite Penn State's nightmare season, Kraft projected optimism about the program's future. We have invested at the highest level, he said. Ultimately, I believe a new leader can help us win a national championship. Sources close to the program expect Kraft to swing for the fences in hiring a new coach. Possible candidates can include Indiana's Kurt Signetti, Iowa State's Matt Campbell, Texas A&M's Mike Elko, and Georgia Tech's Brent Key. But all eyes will be on Nebraska coach Matt Rule, who worked under Kraft at Temple. The two remain close. Rule won 10 games in 2015 and 2016 at Temple before taking the head job at Baylor. In 2024, he led Nebraska to its first winning season in 7 years. This fall, the Huskers are 5-1. Yet, those who have worked with Rule in the past call Penn State his dream job. This week, Rule, a walk-on linebacker for the Nittany Lions under Joe Paterno in the 1990s, didn't rule out a return to his alma mater. I love that place, Rule said. I love Pat. I love James Franklin, and am sad that came to an end. I wish him the absolute best, but I'm really happy here, said a former Penn State staffer, Rule. They're probably a perfect marriage. If you're Pat, you hope Matt finishes really strong, and you can parade him in front of your donors. They have to hire somebody who infuses confidence into the fan base. While Rule enjoyed success at Temple and Baylor, taking the Bears to the Big 12 championship game in 2019, he too has struggled to win big games. Over his stints at Temple, Baylor, and Nebraska, Rule is 0-11 against AP top 10 opponents and 2-23 against the top 25. He had 18 upset wins and 13 upset losses during that time. Only 53 years old, Franklin's coaching career is likely far from finished. On Sunday, he addressed the players in what sources characterized as an emotional meeting. The players really did love him, one source said. Penn State center and captain Nick Dawkins praised Franklin's contagious energy, fighter spirit, toughness, and grit on Tuesday. All the flack and criticism and boos and chants in the face of adversity, he remained a strong shoulder, remained stone cold for his players, for the university, he said. Standing tall for those that are standing with you.
Howdy folks, and welcome back to the Gridiron Grab Bag. I tell you what, there ain't no off-season in the NFL, is there? We're halfway through the 2025 season and the storylines are just absolutely poppin'. Today, we're diving headfirst into two of the biggest narratives shaping the league right now. First, we've got the incredible quarterback carousel that spun into action this past offseason, sending some big names to new teams. We're going to break down who's flourishing, who's floundering, and what it all means for their futures. Then we'll shift gears, because with the trade deadline looming, GMs are on the horn, trying to make those crucial moves. Bill Barnwell dropped some fascinating proposals, and we're going to chew on a few of those. It's a wild time, and believe you me, every decision from here on out could change the trajectory of these teams for years to come. So buckle up, because we got a lot to cover. All right, let's kick things off with a couple of quarterbacks who are absolutely lighting it up at their new homes. First up, Sam Darnold with the Seattle Seahawks. Now, who would have thought it? He's sitting pretty with 11 touchdowns, over 1,500 yards, and a QBR that's just a hair behind the big boys. The man is pushing the ball downfield, not taking sacks, and making plays on the run. Sure, he's had a couple of clutch turnovers, but he also led a game-winning drive in Week 4. My goodness, Seattle traded Geno Smith for him, and it looks like a genius move. Then you've got Daniel Jones with the Indianapolis Colts, leading the entire NFL in QBR with a 79.7. Come on now. He's got 8 touchdowns, 1,502 yards, and a ridiculously low sack rate. Coach Shane Steichen's game plans are masterful, and Jones has thrived. The Colts are 5-1 and buzzing with chatter about a contract extension for Danny Dimes. This just goes to show you, sometimes all a player needs is a fresh start and the right system, and bam, magic happens.
Now, as much as we love a good redemption story, we've also got some quarterbacks who are truly at a crossroads. Let's talk about Justin Fields with the New York Jets. Oh, bless his heart. He's tied for 28th in passing touchdowns, 29th in yards and QBR. It's tough, folks. The man can run. He's got 235 rushing yards already, but his pocket passing is just inconsistent. 9 sacks in one game? That's not going to cut it, especially with the Jets sitting at 0-6. They gave him a 2-year, $40 million deal, essentially a 1-year audition, and he hasn't exactly provided evidence he's the long-term answer. Cutting him means eating $10 million in guaranteed salary. Then there's Geno Smith with the Las Vegas Raiders. He's thrown 10 interceptions in 6 games. The last QB to do that was Kirk Cousins in 2020. That's a lot of turnovers. He's 35, and $18.5 million of his 2026 salary is guaranteed. If the Raiders want to move on, they'll have to eat that money. It's a stark reminder of how quickly fortunes can change in this league and how brutal the business side can be.
Speaking of veteran quarterbacks, we can't forget about Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh. He signed a 1-year deal and everything seems to be going well. He's playing smart, he's integrated seamlessly into the team culture. Defensive captain Cameron Hayward even said Rodgers has been a big part of the team being closer. The one knock? Lack of deep passes. He's last in air yards per attempt. But hey, they're winning, and McAfee even said this is the best Rodgers has looked in years. Here's the kicker, though. Rodgers has basically said this is his final year. He turns 42 in December. So while things are great now, his likelihood of staying in 2026 is just 5%. Now, thinking about players whose futures might be elsewhere, that brings us straight to the NFL trade deadline. This is where teams make those crucial midseason adjustments, either shoring up weaknesses for a playoff push or cashing in assets for future draft capital. It's one of the most exciting times for GMs, and it can absolutely change the landscape of the league in a hurry. All right, let's talk about a team that looks like they're ready to make a serious splash, the Detroit Lions. Bill Barnwell has them going all in for pass rushers, and I'm here for it. First up, Trey Hendrickson from the Bengals. The Bengals are without Joe Burrow. They've lost 4 straight, so trading Hendrickson for a 2026 second-round pick makes a ton of sense for them. They save nearly $11 million and get future draft capital instead of losing him for nothing. For the Lions, they get that second great pass rusher opposite Aiden Hutchinson. Their secondary is battered, and a more efficient pass rush will help. Second, Jalan Phillips from the Dolphins. The Dolphins could save $8.8 million and open a spot for Chop Robinson. Phillips has battled injuries, but his pressure rate is well above league average. This, folks, is what an all-in move looks like, trading multiple picks for 2 high-impact short-term contract edge rushers. Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes are serious about a Super Bowl run, and these moves would tell the world they mean business. What an absolute statement. But it ain't always about the superstars at the trade deadline, is it? Sometimes it's about shrewd moves for depth, and Barnwell's got some great ones. Take the Colts, for example. Daniel Jones is playing great, but Anthony Richardson Sr. is injured. So they grab Russell Wilson from the Giants for a 2026 7th-round pick. It's QB insurance, a veteran presence, and a low-cost gamble. The Giants, who have Jackson Dart and Jameis Winston, don't need Wilson. Or how about the Giants getting Jacoby Myers from the Raiders? Their top wideout Malik Neighbors is out, Darius Slayton's got a hamstring issue, so Myers provides a much-needed receiving threat. The Raiders shed salary and get cornerback Deonte Banks. We're seeing teams like the Chargers, who lost Najee Harris and Omarion Hampton, looking for running back help, maybe Jerome Ford from the Browns. The Eagles need a third cornerback, so Rick Woolen from Seattle makes sense. Every team has a hole, and GMs are trying to plug them up before it's too late. It's all about finding value and shoring up those weak spots. So what if we learned from this whirlwind tour of the NFL's midseason landscape? Well, for one, the quarterback position remains the ultimate determinant of a team's fate. A change of scenery can revive a career, and a bad fit can sink even the most talented player. Guys like Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold are proving that opportunity is everything, while Justin Fields and Geno Smith are fighting for their NFL lives. And 2, the trade deadline ain't just for blockbuster deals. It's about smart, strategic moves to either bolster a contender or rebuild for tomorrow. Whether it's the Lions going all in for pass rushers or teams snagging depth at safety or receiver, every transaction is a gamble with high stakes. The beauty of the NFL is that it never stops evolving. It's a chess match played at 100 miles an hour, and I, for one, can't wait to see how all these pieces move and how it all shakes out as we head towards the playoffs. Thanks for tuning in, y'all, and we'll
This season is extra special for Steelers Jonnu Smith. 45 miles south of Pittsburgh, a man will click on the TV at 8 p.m. Thursday. He's not wearing a black and gold jersey or waving a terrible towel. He's watching from his cell at State Correctional Institute Fayette. This maximum security prison houses nearly 2,000 men from across Pennsylvania. Unlike many here, he's not a lifelong Steelers fan, but he shares a lifelong bond with one of the players on the field. Wayne Smith, Jonnu's older brother, will be glued to the screen. For most of his 10 years in prison, he's only caught a few of Jonnu's games. This year, it's different. He can watch every single one. It's his last year of incarceration, and he's savoring every moment. Thanks to the local broadcast, he can finally see Jonnu in primetime. Wayne's been dreaming of this since Jonnu was traded to the Steelers. Tonight, he'll witness his brother live out his dreams on the biggest stage.
WNBA Mock Draft 2026. UCLA's Lauren Betts projected no. 1. Last season, Lauren Betts and the UCLA Bruins advanced to the Final Four for the first time in the NCAA era. Now Betts wants a return trip, but the senior has a lot to aim for individually as well, including being the no. 1 pick in the 2026 WNBA Draft. Much must be settled before then. The WNBA is negotiating a new collective bargaining agreement with the union, the story that has dominated the narrative around the league all year. The draft lottery, expansion drafts for Toronto and Portland, and a mammoth free agency that will include most players, not on rookie contracts, all will have to take place before the 2026 draft. In short, ESPN's mock draft now during the WNBA Finals is an exercise in many hypotheticals, a picture that gradually will become clearer over the next 7 months. Here, we've listed the top 5 teams in order of their lottery odds and slotted the expansion teams in after them. 5 of our top 6 selections in this mock were eligible to go in the 2025 draft, but all opted to return for another college season. Dallas no. 1 pick in 2025, UConn guard Paige Buchers. 1 Rookie of the Year honors, but the Wings won just 10 games and finished tied for last with Chicago. Last month, the Wings fired Chris Cocklanes after 1 year as coach. If the Wings win the draft lottery, it would mark their 3rd no. 1 pick in 6 seasons, though their top pick in 2021, Charlie Collier, is no longer playing in the WNBA. Betts was a first-team All-American last season, averaging 20.2 PPG, 9.5 RPG, and 2.9 BPG, while shooting 64.8% from the field. She is a traditional center who doesn't shoot three-pointers. WNBA teams must decide if that's a major drawback or something she can add to her strong low-block play. Miles enrolled early at Notre Dame during the pandemic-affected 2020-21 season, playing 6 games. Then she played 3 full seasons for the Irish, but sat out 2023-24 with a knee injury. Many saw her as a 2025 lottery pick, but instead she transferred to TCU for her last season of eligibility. She averaged 15.4 PPG, 5.6 RPG, and 5.8 APG last season, and appears to be the top point guard pick among college seniors. The Lynx played in the 2024 WNBA Finals and had the best record in the league this year, but they are in the lottery thanks to a 2024 trade with Chicago. After injury issues during her first 3 years at UConn, Fudd had an overall healthy 2024-25, playing in 34 of the Huskies' 40 games. She averaged 13.6 PPG and shot 43.6% from behind the arc for the national champions. Fudd's talent has never been a question. She is an elite player when healthy, especially as a perimeter scorer. She looks to be the top international prospect in this draft. Fam, who turns 20 next June, started playing with a Spanish pro club when she was 15 and helped lead Spain to the Eurobasket final against winner Belgium this summer, averaging 8.7 PPG and 4.2 RPG. Fam's potential is high. She might elevate all the way to the no. 1 spot by the time of the draft. Johnson has said she hopes to elevate her status to a potential no. 1, and that confidence is part of what makes her an appealing player. A national champion as a freshman, last season she had career bests with 18.6 PPG and 38.3% shooting from behind the arc. She also averaged 5.6 rebounds and 2.5 assists. We don't know what order the expansion teams will pick in this draft, but for now we put the tempo here and the fire at no. 7. Latson averaged a Division I leading 25.2 ppg last season with Florida State. She sought a bigger profile with a program that regularly competes for the national championship, and South Carolina provides that. How will Latson adjust from an offense where she was the primary threat to being one of several? She is a career 32.6% shooter from behind the arc, which she will look to improve upon. She will spend her final season in the SEC after 3 years at Ohio State, where she was one of the Big Ten's top players. Her 16.5 ppg average and 37.4% shooting from behind the arc in 2024 to 25 were career highs. McMahon is a bit undersized as a forward, but should improve defensively at Ole Miss and can improve her stock for playing at the next level. She spent her first 3 seasons at Indiana, where she averaged career highs last season of 14.4 ppg, 5.4 rpg, and 3.2 apg. Garcon, who will play her final season at a different Big Ten school, stands out as an adept three-point shooter with great size. She shot 42.6% from behind the arc during her Hoosiers career and made 223 pointers, including 88 last season. One of the most intriguing transfers in college, Williams averaged 19.2 ppg and 9.8 rpg for Wisconsin last season, but her college career went under the radar while with the Badgers, who last made the NCAA tournament in 2010. Now she's joining the 12-time national champion Huskies, and no program better prepares players for WNBA success. After 2 seasons at Texas A&M and 1 at UCLA, Barker will finish her college career at Tennessee. She has averaged 10.3 ppg and 6.4 rpg over 3 collegiate seasons and has a skill set with good size that interests WNBA evaluators. She will need to adjust to Coach Kim Caldwell's fast pace, but already spent 2 seasons in the SEC and is prepared for the league style of play. She will play her last college season for the Bruins after a good career at Utah, where she averaged 19.3 ppg in 2024 to 25. Her biggest strength is three-point shooting. She made 94 trays last season on 44.8% accuracy. Her 62.7 effective field goal percentage was the best in the Big Ten. She was named MVP of the FIBA U19 World Cup in 2023, then was part of Spain's runner-up senior squad in the Eurobasket tournament this summer. She will turn 20 in January and could be ready for the jump to the WNBA. The Dream had a good season under first-year WNBA coach Carl Smesko, who emphasizes three-point shooting. Jackson made 87 trays last season while shooting 37.2%, and she was part of a Duke defense that led the ACC in allowing just 56.5 ppg per game. She was second to Betts in scoring, 12.8 ppg, for the Bruins' Final Four team last season, while also averaging 5.0 assists and 3.5 rebounds. There don't appear to be a lot of top point guards available in this draft, and we will see whether Rice impresses WNBA evaluators with her game management skills. Okot, who is from Kenya, played there for 2 years at Zetech University before spending this past season at Mississippi State, where she averaged 11.3 ppg, 9.6 rpg, and 1.1 bpg, and shot 64.9% from the field. Now at South Carolina, her role might be even bigger with forward Chloe Kitts out for the season with a knee injury. Kitts, incidentally, was on our first-round draft board before being hurt and might still enter the draft after the season. When the Las Vegas Aces won their 3rd WNBA title in 4 seasons, the debate Friday immediately turned to whether they had cemented their status as the league's next dynasty. Now it's time to see where this Aces title team ranks among the league's 29 champions. It's not an easy task. There was a big gap this season between the 2025 Aces at their worst versus at their best. Perhaps no other team in league history reversed its fortunes so dramatically, going from 14 to 14 after a 53-point loss on August 2 to completing a 4-0 sweep of the WNBA Finals on October 10. The Aces ended the regular season on a 16-game winning streak, but their playoff run had its drama. They were nearly upset in the first round, winning the deciding Game 3 by 1 point against Seattle. They went to overtime in the deciding Game 5 of the semifinals against Indiana. and Games 1 and 3 of the finals versus Phoenix were decided by a combined 5 points. All of that is why the 2025 Aces aren't in the top 10 like their 2022 and 2023 championship predecessors. Speaking of which, among the biggest challenges for assembling this list is ranking champions who are from the same franchise and were made up of mostly the same players. We've attempted to split those hairs. There's more than one way to assess the teams. ESPN's Michael Vopel ranked the teams based on discussions with coaches and players around the league, plus some old-fashioned subjectivity. ESPN's Kevin Pelton ranked the champions 1 through 29 using a similar statistical model to the one he developed to determine the NBA's top teams. Based on the predictive power of point differential, it starts with that mark in the regular season. Ultimately, being at the bottom in these rankings isn't that much different from being at the top. They're all champions. 1. 2023 Las Vegas Aces. Regular season and playoff records, 34-6, 8-1. Defeated the New York Liberty 3-1 in finals. Pelton overall ranked 2. RS differential, plus 12.6, third among champions. PO rating, plus 20.3, second among champions. Rating, plus 13.7, first among champions. As good as they were in winning the 2022 championship, the Aces were even better in 2023. They ranked no. 1 in scoring and defense during the regular season and stumbled just once in the playoffs. In Game 3 of the finals, Aya Wilson got her first WNBA Finals MVP honor for her performance in 2023. She won again for the 2025 finals. In Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum, and Jackie Young, the Aces also had a trio of guards who were among the best backcourts in league history. Candace Parker, a free agent signee who was expected to be a big part of the Aces' 2023 title run, was sidelined by foot surgery that July. The Aces also lost starters Gray and Kia Stokes before Game 4 and still won the title, illustrating how good the chemistry was for the team. The Las Vegas bench, then led by Alicia Clark, Kayla George, Sydney Colson, and Kirsten Bell, came through when they were needed most. 2. 2000 Houston Comets. Regular season and playoff records, 27-5, 6-0. Defeated the New York Liberty 2-0 in finals. Pelton overall ranked 3. RS differential, plus 12.8.5 first. PO rating, plus 14.2 eighth. Rating, plus 13.0 third. This was the last of Houston's 4 consecutive title teams, the end of the Comets' version of Camelot. In 2000, the WNBA was at 16 teams, and most of the former ABL players were in their second year in the league. Cheryl Swoops won her first of 3 MVP awards, and 2-time MVP Cynthia Cooper played her last full season at age 37. As was the case with the other Houston championship teams, the Stars carried them. Swoops and Cooper averaged 35 minutes a game, Tina Thompson 34 and Janeth Arkine 30.5. Fifth starter, Tiffany Johnson, 22.2, was the only other player who averaged at least 20 minutes a game. With 3 future Hall of Famers, Cooper, Swoops, Thompson, Houston didn't need much statistically from its reserves. The Comets' bench players knew their roles, and the team knew how to win. This title ended the dynasty. The Los Angeles Sparks were ascending. But what a finish! The Comets weren't the top seed in the playoffs. Despite the best differential in league history, Houston finished 1 game back of the 28-4 Sparks before sweeping Los Angeles in the best-of-3 conference finals. 5 of the Comets' 6 playoff wins came by 8 points or fewer, but all 3 of their opponents went 20-12 or better during a top-heavy year where the league expanded by 4 teams. 3. 2020 Seattle Storm. Regular season and playoff records, 18-4, 6-0. Defeated the Las Vegas Aces 3-0 in finals. Pelton overall ranked no. 1. RS differential, plus 11.5 fifth. PO rating, plus 21.5 first. Rating, plus 13.7 first. Bringing back the same core that won the 2018 title into a bubble season marked by opt-outs of several stars, the Storm entered 2020 as heavy favorites. Seattle wasn't the no. 1 seed in the playoffs, losing a tiebreaker to Las Vegas, but dominated with veteran point guard Sue Bird back in the lineup. After a COVID-19 scare postponed their opening semifinals game, the Storm never looked back, going 6-0 in the playoffs, with 5 of the 6 wins by double digits, including a 33-point blowout to close out the Aces. Bird, part of all 4 Storm title teams, has ruminated over which of them was best. Lauren Jackson was the superstar of the 2004 and 2010 Storm title teams. Her counterpart in 2018 and 2020 was Breanna Stewart. Bird said an edge goes to the very similarly constructed 2018 and 2020 teams due to the presence of guard Jewell Loyd. Bird then gives a nod to the overall depth and chemistry to the 2020 Storm, who were first in the league in offensive and defensive rating. The way we shot threes, the way we moved the ball. If you took something away, we just keep it moving. Bird said, we talked before every game that we were going to wear teams out with the pace that we played. 4. 2013 Minnesota Lynx. Regular season and playoff records, 26-8, 7-0. Defeated the Atlanta Dream 3-0 in finals. Pelton overall rank no. 8. RS differential, plus 9.48. PO rating, plus 15.2 fourth. Rating, plus 10.48. This was the second of 4 Lynx titles in a 7-season span. They didn't have the best regular season record among Lynx champs. Both 2011 and 2017 went 27-7, and the 2016 runners-up were 28-6. But Coach Cheryl Reeve said the core 4 of the franchise, Simone Augustus, Rebecca Brunson, Maya Moore, and Lindsay Whalen, were near the peak of their collective powers in 2013. They all averaged double figures in scoring, led by Moore's 18.5 PPG. The 5th starter was Janelle McCarville, Whalen's former University of Minnesota teammate, and that pairing again thrilled Gophers fans. In 2012, Minnesota lost 3-1 in the finals to Indiana, which irked the Lynx because they were 5 games better than the Fever in the regular season standings. The 2013 team didn't allow any openings in the playoffs, sweeping Seattle, Phoenix, and Atlanta. This Lynx championship team was the league's best from start to finish, sweeping its way to a title with the best playoff point differential ever, plus 15.4 PPG. We were denied playoff matchups against either of the other 2 teams to win at least 20 games during the regular season because both Chicago and Los Angeles were upset earlier in the postseason. 5. 1998 Houston Comets. Regular season and playoff records, 27-3, 4-1. Defeated the Phoenix Mercury 2-1 in finals. Pelton overall rank no. 4. RS differential, plus 12.6 second. PO rating, plus 13.39. Rating, plus 12.7 fourth, after winning the WNBA's inaugural championship with limited contributions from Swoops, who played just 9 games after giving birth to son, Jordan, and did not score in the 1997 playoffs. The Comets teamed to prime Swoops with reigning MVP Cooper and second-year forward Thompson. The result was a 27-3 record, still the best winning percentage in league history. Houston's playoff rating isn't quite as relatively strong because the Comets were taking the distance in the best-of-3 finals by a 19-11 Phoenix Mercury team. Cooper said if she had to pick just one Comets championship team as her favorite, it would be this one. As Kevin noted, the team's .900 winning percentage remains the best in WNBA history. Swoops was second on the team in scoring at 15.6 PPG to Cooper's 22.7. Cooper won her second consecutive MVP award. She was finals MVP for all 4 championship teams. And there's another reason this team is dear to Cooper's heart. Her close friend, Kim Perreault, the Comets spark plug point guard, averaged 8.5 points and 4.7 assists in what would be her last season in the WNBA. Perreault had 13 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists in the title-clinching win over the Mercury. 5 months later, she was diagnosed with cancer and died in August 1999 at age 32. 6. 2014 Phoenix Mercury. Regular season and playoff records, 29-5, 7-1. Defeated the Chicago Sky 3-0 in finals. Pelton overall ranked no. 7. RS differential, plus 9.47. PO rating, plus 14.6. 5th. Rating, plus 10.47. Amid the Lynx dynasty from 2011 to 2017, the Mercury owned this season. Their 29 wins is a WNBA record, and they were first in offensive and defensive rating. All 5 starters, Diana Taurasi, Brittany Griner, Candice Dupree, Penny Taylor, and Dewana Bonner, averaged double digits in scoring. Their only loss in the playoffs came to Minnesota in Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals, but they bounced back to win the series with an 18-point Game 3 victory. In the WNBA Finals, Chicago was no match. Taurasi, who averaged 16.2 ppg in the regular season and 21.9 ppg in the playoffs, was WNBA Finals MVP for the second time. The 2014 Phoenix team still holds the best winning percentage for any team outside the expansion era. Relative to that record, the Mercury's plus 9.5 differential wasn't especially dominating, the reason Phoenix falls outside the top 5 in my rankings. In the playoffs, Phoenix was outstanding, beating the defending champion Lynx 2-1 in the conference finals and sweeping a 15-19 Chicago team in the finals by an average of 18.3 ppg. 7. 2017 Minnesota Lynx. Regular season and playoff records, 27-7, 6-2. Defeated the Los Angeles Sparks 3-2 in finals. Pelton overall ranked no. 5. RS differential, plus 11.16. PO rating, plus 11.912. Rating, plus 11.35. The top-rated one of the Lynx's 4 title teams in my model fully integrated Sylvia Fowles, who won MVP and Finals MVP, to the core of the team that had already won 3 championships in the previous 6 years. After sweeping Washington in the semifinals, Minnesota rallied from a 2-1 deficit to win a finals rematch against the Sparks in 5 games. Minnesota was still smarting over a 3-2 finals loss to Los Angeles in 2016, and the teams were again arch-rivals in 2017. Minnesota was first in the league in offensive and defensive rating, and Los Angeles was second in both. Target Center was being renovated, so the Lynx's home games in the 2017 playoffs were at the University of Minnesota, Williams Arena, where Whalen had played in college. The decisive 85-76 Game 5 win came in a packed and cacophonous Williams, and Fowles was Finals MVP for a second time. She also won in 2015.
The NHL's shock teams, who has under and overperformed. Sports can provoke all sorts of emotions. New York Rangers forward Mika Zibanejad, for example, couldn't decide whether to laugh or cry after his team was shut out in its first 3 home games of the season, something that had never happened previously in NHL history. Overall, the Rangers are currently 2-3-0 under new coach Mike Sullivan. But those 2 wins came against the Buffalo Sabres and Pittsburgh Penguins, so the jury is still out on whether the Rangers can be goal-scoring threats who pumped in 10 over their pair of road victories, or if they can't convert against tougher competition, specifically in their own barn. Consider New York an early season enigma, and it's not the only group drawing all manner of overreaction from around the hockey world. That's our time-honored sporting tradition, though, to build up and tear down teams after only a few outings in a months-long season. The 2025-26 NHL campaign is only in its 2nd week, and there are things to discuss, such as what clubs are overachieving early, which ones are cringe-inducing off the bat, and of course, what's going on in the mushy middle. It's a short shelf life for observations of a tiny sample size. Get the takes while they're hot, in a quick spin around the league to highlight a few teams in each category. Starting with the happy ones. What has happened? Boston jumped out to a 3-0-0 record, matching the reigning Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers for the best statistical start of the season. Not bad for a Bruins team that finished with 76 points last season. Missed the playoffs and generally wasn't saddled with high expectations going into this new season. Boston is wearing its underdog status with pride. Why it happened? Well, it's worth mentioning that last season was odd in Beantown. Jeremy Swayman vastly underperformed after a combative contract negotiation bled into the preseason. Charlie McAvoy and Hampus Lindholm suffered injuries that cratered Boston's blue line prospects. And by March, there wasn't much GM Don Sweeney could do but send players elsewhere, including Brad Marchand to the aforementioned Panthers. Somehow, the lower expectations heading into 2025-26 have been freeing. Boston has benefited from a light schedule thus far, topping the Chicago Blackhawks and Sabres out of the gate. But hey, you play who's on the schedule. The Bruins are 5th in goals against, giving up just 2.25 per game. And that's with Lindholm being out with an injury again. David Pastrnak is averaging over a point per game, an excellent sign for Boston's offense. And Swayman is 2-0 with a .966 save percentage. Even though the Bruins fell to the Tampa Bay Lightning on Monday for their first defeat of the season, it wasn't an altogether bad effort. Just an indication that if Boston wants to stay on track, they'll need to not be too self-satisfied by what they'd have achieved. Will it continue? It would be easy to dismiss the Bees after their Lightning loss as incapable of stacking up against tougher foes. That may prove to be the case, especially when their starts are that lethargic. The best-case scenario for the Bruins from here is staying in the playoff contention mix and working in as many prospects as they can to get experience when stakes are lower than they've been in some time for a perennial contender. They haven't resigned themselves to falling for top draft prospect Gavin McKenna just yet. Seattle Kraken record, 2-0-0-1. What has happened? Seattle went from bringing up the Pacific Division's rear last season to scrambling its way up the standings with a strong push into this new campaign. That has included already topping one key divisional opponent, the Vegas Golden Knights, and doing so without a singular superstar in the mix. Intriguing. Why it happened? The Kraken have cracked down defensively. Seattle is tied for 6th fewest goals against per game, 2.33, and it's averaging fewer than 30 shots on goal per game. Even when the Kraken are making errors, it's in wildly entertaining games, like their overtime thriller in Montreal that ended with Seattle's first loss of the season. The Kraken have gotten strong goaltending from Joey Decord, .918%. But the impressive thing about Seattle is it doesn't exactly have a stable of top-end skaters. The team appears to excel by the committee approach. Jared McCann and Vince Dunn pace the team with 4 points each, and the Kraken already have 7 different goal scorers. Seattle wasn't meant to be a head-turner this season, but its slow and steady approach could yield more positive dividends. Will it continue? The Kraken's lack of elite talent may eventually catch up to them as other squads get their defensive games in order. Seattle has an uphill battle given who's in their division. Hello, Edmonton. And the Kraken will need to keep proving themselves against tougher competition. The same could be said for other teams, though. Consider the Kraken to be an underdog who will at least contemplate making additions instead of subtractions prior to the trade deadline. Nashville Predators record 2-1-1. What has happened? Nashville was not a good surprise last season. That could change this season. The Predators sputtered about in 2024-25, despite Steven Stamkos coming aboard, in what was admittedly a disappointing individual campaign for him. Nashville vowed to regroup under now second-year head coach Andrew Brunette, and the Predators have looked mostly true to their word with a 2-1-1 record, a sensational goaltender, and stars ready to stay alight. Why it happened? Don't let that third period against Toronto define your opinion of the Predators. They were tied 2-2 with the Maple Leafs going into the third period on the second half of a back-to-back, with number 2 netminder Justice Annunen making his first start of the season. Nashville showed resiliency, coming back from a 2-0 deficit and grinded to the finish line. What has been working for the Predators is spreading the wealth offensively. Ryan O'Reilly is a commanding top-line center with 2 goals in 4 games, while Eric Howla and Jonathan Marchessault, both with a pair of markers, are clicking on their third unit. The real revelation, though, is goaltender Juicy Saros. He's off to a 2.01 start with a .947 SV percent. Saros has been Nashville's savior in years past, and it has hurt them to rely too heavily on his contributions. If Nashville can supplement its goaltending with solid defense, led by the often impeccable Roman Josi, and even more offensive firepower, Stamkos and Philip Forsberg are still coming along, then the Predators can stay on the right side of surprise this time. Will it continue? Nashville can't afford to be one-dimensional. Saros can't carry them to the point that they are winning one-goal games every time out. And at some point, the power play will have to get rolling. 5.9% isn't going to cut it. What Nashville is showing so far is character. The Predators have got some juice. How far does it take them? Possibly to a wild card playoff spot. The Central Division is a beast. After all, and that's more likely to happen if the Preds dedicate as strongly on the defensive side as they do offensively. Honorable mention: Anaheim Ducks. This team is having a whole lot of fun, and not just because they passed out some incredible Wild Wing-inspired masks to fans this week. Anaheim seems to have found new life under first-year head coach Joel Quenneville, and so too has veteran forward Chris Kreider, who joined Anaheim in an off-season trade from the Rangers and has 4 goals through 3 games. He has been aided by rising star Leo Carlsson, one of those high draftees, second overall in 2023, who seemed destined to always be deemed underrated by those less engaged with the Western Conference, and Cutter Gauthier, who has found the fresh start he was looking for outside Philadelphia. The Ducks have the league's 4th-ranked offense, averaging 4 goals per game, and the second-best power play at 36.4%. To splash a little water on the party, Anaheim is also allowing the 6th most goals per game, and it isn't exactly a defensive powerhouse yet, despite some seasoned veterans such as Radko Gudas and Jacob Trouba on the blue line. The team's 2-1-0 record to open the season is something to note as the Ducks perhaps begin sprinting toward daylight at the end of their rebuild. Surprising strugglers: Buffalo Sabres. Record 1-3-0. What has happened? The Sabres weren't necessarily counted among the elite Stanley Cup contenders heading into this season. But it took Buffalo fans all of 3 games to start Fire Adams chants and wear paper bag adornments on their heads. So aside from an out-of-character outburst on Wednesday night, not much good is going on right now. Why it happened? Injuries have certainly played a role in Buffalo's bumbling. Josh Norris, who arrived with health concerns when the Sabres acquired him in a trade last season for forward Dylan Cozens, is sidelined for at least 8 weeks with an upper body injury. Zach Benson was unavailable the first 3 games. Defenseman Michael Kesselring and Matthias Samuelsson are out. Starting goalie Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is ailing, and Jordan Greenway is still rehabbing from a summer surgery. That's quite the full infirmary. Regardless, Buffalo still has most of its top players available, and they aren't doing nearly enough. The Sabres were outscored 10-2 in their opening 0-3-0 skid to average a league worst 0.67 goals per game. Their power play went 0 for 11 in that span. Alex Lyon has stepped up in net with Luukkonen out, but he can't make up for the Sabres' lack of offense. Tage Thompson and Alex Tuch have 1 goal apiece. Jason Zucker is the real standout with 3, and Rasmus Dahlin has tossed in a trio of assists. However, most of that output came in Wednesday's game against Ottawa, where Buffalo showed signs of life against a team depleted by the loss of captain Brady Tkachuk. Can that momentum translate against other clubs? We shall see. The Sabres haven't shown they necessarily have the depth to account for their injured parties, and it's an indictment on Adams' management. Hence those jerseys flying onto the ice. Buffalo doesn't have the defensive details to hold its opponents at bay without further goal support, and it has put them behind the 8 ball early. Will it continue? The Sabres aren't hurting for talent. They're starved for execution. Benson returned for Wednesday's game, and that was a boost Buffalo needed. 1 bad week, or 2, won't define a season for Thompson, Tuch, or Dahlin. It's really whether the Sabres can command confidence through their struggles that might determine success from here. It has been 14 years since Buffalo made the playoffs. It's not a benchmark players want to hear about every day, but that's what comes up when your start is this shaky. Negativity can galvanize a group, though. If the Sabres can rally around one another and push back against their critics, they can stop their slide before it avalanches. Unfortunately, history isn't exactly on their side. Vancouver Canucks, record 1-2-0. What has happened? The Canucks' sputtering stars have led to a lackluster start that has fallen well below the level their talent should be capable of achieving. As it is, Vancouver is 1-2-0 to hold a share of the Pacific Division basement. Why it happened? Vancouver's top line has been a disaster. Jake DeBrusk, Elias Pettersson, and Brock Boeser clearly don't complement one another. There's no real worker on that unit to go in the corner and dig pucks out. All three are looking to score, which is good, but only if you've got the puck long enough to do so. In general, Pettersson isn't proving to be the true first-unit pivot that Vancouver needs. The Canucks' highest-paid player is coming off a woeful 2024-25 season, in which he scored just 15 goals in 64 games. Vancouver isn't exactly reveling in a bounce-back showing now. Pettersson, with 1 assist and 3 shots to his credit, is mostly invisible on the ice offensively, although he has been on for only 1 goal against. The Canucks can't thrive without him finding a rhythm, with or without his current line mates. Vancouver's power play has yet to convert too, and that has left the team to languish with the league's 24th ranked offense, averaging 2.67 goals per game. The Canucks are fortunate to have an all-world defenseman in Quinn Hughes and a possible Team USA Olympian goaltender in Thatcher Demko, who is 1-1-0 with a .944 SV percent. Until Vancouver's offense generates a spark, the defensive efforts won't be enough to carry the Canucks up the standings. Will it continue? It's fair to say there are growing pains for plenty of teams with a new coach. Adam Foote took over this season, and he's still putting his mark on this group. Vancouver has the raw material. The Canucks' fourth line has been particularly solid. Vancouver needs more of that work ethic from the rest of its skaters. Self-inflicted wounds and giving up response goals have hurt the Canucks as well. It's their details, more than anything, that aren't sharp. Scoring breeds confidence, though, and if Vancouver can light the lamp a little more and serve up fewer odd-man opportunities the other way to torpedo its progress, there will be brighter days ahead here. Dishonorable mention, Vegas Golden Knights. To call out the Canucks for top-line chemistry issues, it's only fair to note they are not the only Pacific Division club dealing with those difficulties. The Golden Knights acquired Mitch Marner in a trade with Toronto, then signed him to a massive 8-year, $96 million extension, with the intention that Marner would ride shotgun with Jack Eichel to dominate offensively. That hasn't happened, yet. Eichel and Marner worked together throughout the preseason, but after 3 games, coach Bruce Cassidy had to separate his stars, at least temporarily. Those two are pass-first players, and excellent ones at that. But someone must do the scoring, and it can't be on Ivan Barbashev alone to get that job done when they're a trio. Cassidy must find some way to get Marner and Eichel to click. Vegas starting 1-2-0 probably wasn't what GM Kelly McCrimmon was envisioning when he went after the star winger. The good news is that Vegas has endless potential. All that's required is tapping into it. And that's going to do it for today's show, ATL. You've been rockin' with the Bro Code Podcast, where real talk meets real sports. Big love to everyone tuning in across the city and online. Don't forget to hit that follow, drop a review, and keep it locked in for more hot takes and locker room laughs. Until next time, signing off, reminding you, stay sharp, stay bold, and always keep it Bro Code certified.